All right, guys, in today's video, we have a concept that I think could completely change your golf game. It's how to create effortless power by actually turning your body off. Right? It might be counter to some things you've tried or some things you've heard before, but we're going to talk about that in today's video. A couple really cool drills that we're going to show you in a little bit, but we're going to go over the concepts first. To my right, Mr. Jeff Ritter, one of the best golf coaches in the world. Appreciate you being out here with us today, man.
Absolutely, bud.
Thank you very
Glad to be
much. So, creating effortless power by turning the body off, right? I've seen you work with lots of your students and really enjoy watching the videos. There's some concepts that you use with them that I think, the transformations that they're able to make are pretty quick. And I believe this is one of them. And this is something that I've talked with my students about as well. The idea of turning the body off or learning how to swing the arms and keeping a stable hub, right, with body motion. And so just conceptually, let's go over that first, and then we'll go through a little 3-step drill and process they can use.
Well, I think with golf in general, what the mind conceives, the body can achieve. And when people struggle, it's by and large because they don't have the sound concept of what they're trying to do.
Yes.
So one thing I learned years ago from the Hall of Fame coach Jim Hardy was that you can take sports or games and put them into two separate categories: online games and offline games. And the line we're referring to is the target line, right? So if I were playing a sport like basketball, I would be literally standing along the line of projection.
Okay.
So to be accurate with my shot, I'd have to move in a linear fashion along that line.
Yeah.
And so basketball, pool, darts, those would be online games.
Okay.
Well, golf, baseball, some strokes in tennis, a sidearm throw, we call these offline games because we're not standing, on the line. We're standing off of it, right?
Off on the sun.
So an offline game requires offline movements or attitudes, right, to be proficient at it. And basically that means that we need to swing in a circle as opposed to swinging in a straight line.
Because we're offline.
Because we're offline.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly,
Makes
right?
sense.
Well, I think a lot of people really understand, and that resonates with it.
Yeah.
So if we're going to swing in a circle with effortless speed, we need to have our hands and club head moving around a stable hub or a stable axis, right? So we might just look at our head position and make sure that our head is relatively steady as we create this circular arcing motion, right? So, like as a coach, if you tell someone to keep their head steady, someone else chimes in and says, well, you can't do that, the head has to move. Of course it has to move, right? But, reasonable movements hit reasonable shots. Reasonable shots shoot reasonable scores, right? So if you're moving your head all over creation, right, well, that's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So basically, just like the sun's hanging out where it is, right? And then the planets go around the sun, right? If the sun's moving around when we wake up tomorrow, bad day for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be a little bit more stable with our center point. You'll learn how to move in a circle around that point.
Love that, dude. I think the players we work with, and the whole point of this, like turning your body off, what we really mean is eliminating that excessive, maybe back and forth motion. All right, guys, quick break from today's video. Look, if you want to make massive improvements with your game and actually get way better in 2025, you got to do something different than you've done before. And one of those things that I highly recommend is checking out these 2-day schools that my friends at Performance Golf are hosting. These are with the best coaches in the world, people you see me in videos with all the time, like Martin Chuck, Angie Rice, Erica Larkin, many more of the top coaches at awesome places all around the United States. We're seeing great results with these schools because what we're able to do when we see you in person is really find and fix the main root issue. Most all of us have like 4 or 5 things wrong with our swing. You can't do them all at one time, but you can find and fix the main one thing, which we can do in person like that. We're able to make massive improvements. I'm talking like maybe 2 years of improvements in only 2 days. So if you're looking for something to really fast track your improvement, this could be the thing that could take you to the next level. We'll put a link in the description down below. Check it out, see if there's a spot available in a location that works for you. The players that we work with who have maybe the least speed, or more importantly, have to put the most force, a lot of work to try and create speed, and actually don't create any speed, are the ones who don't have that stable hub. In fact, they're the ones where the body's moving all over the place. Maybe you can kind of demonstrate or show us the bad version.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm moving my head away from the target and towards the target, I'm creating a online or linear pattern of movement. And straight lines don't move as fast as circles or curves, right? So if we can just try and keep our center point, our head in this case, a little bit more stable, and we can feel like we are moving around that stable hub, right? Then we're creating what we call circular momentum. In a physics book, they may call it angular momentum.
Sure.
But basically, it's a tether ball going around a tetherball pole. We've all seen that in the playground before.
Yeah.
Right? So if the center is stable and we create a circular movement around that center, that's the easiest way to get some effortless speed and power.
Yeah, it's an easy speed.
Absolutely.
And I know when you're training, I'm going to trade you your club for that if you don't mind for a second. I know when you're training with some of your students, you like to start them off feeling this with something light.
Absolutely.
So we can progress to a club. And so if someone has an alignment rod or a lighter object, they say, hey guys, I get it. I kind of want to keep the stable hub. I can create more speed that way, versus the golfer who's moving all around, right? Can't create any speed. With that alignment rod in, how would you start to train that for someone to feel it?
The first thing I would do is I would try and put them in a stance position that makes it really hard to move side to side. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So if I have a wide stance, 1 foot on the boat, 1 foot on the shore, right? They're both separating from each other. I'm going to have a lot of side to side stuff going on, right? So if I just take my trail foot, kick it behind my lead heel a little bit, nice narrow stance, any kind of movement away from the target is going to make me lose balance and topple over. So basically, if I can narrow my stance, then I really have to move in a circle, right?
Love it.
Have to move in a circle. The second thing we like to do is start to feel the hands and the club head moving around our spine, right? So your head is obviously a center point, and your spine the center point. They're both kind of like the axis of rotation. So what I'll have them do is I'll have them take a light object, because what we're trying to really do is we're trying to see if we can create that effortless speed, but we need some evidence that we're actually doing it.
Yeah.
And the evidence is going to be in the sound that we can hear, based on this, alignment stick or a golf club whipping through the air. We're creating a whoosh, right? So basically, if I'm creating speed that's appropriate for golf, well, the most noise should be from the ball forward, right? So if a golfer is losing speed, right, they might take this alignment stick and they might hear some noise over on this side of the arc. Oh,
Yeah.
you hear that?
Okay.
And so basically I'm releasing my wrist angles early, right? And that's getting the shaft lined up with my lead arm, and that's where we're gonna have maximum speed based on that pattern of movement. So if I can go ahead and sort of reverse engineer that, stay more narrow here so I'm more stable here. Now I'm moving in a circle around the axis. Now my goal is to see if I can't get noise over here. Wow. A little bit different, right? Yeah, so I love things that are really helpful for players, in the direction of self-discovery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of coaching that's like, put your elbow here, put your hip here, really, technical and challenging for the everyday golfer. But if you can say, okay, I need to make sure that you have a stance that allows you to stay balanced back and through, i.e. not fall over, well, then you would have to have a more stable hub, right? And if we can create a little bit of noise over here, just through some awareness versus over here, then I would have to be creating and releasing angles within that arc more efficiently than maybe what I'm doing with my golf club in my hands.
And I know that when the player doesn't do that well, and because we're sort of talking about effortless, meaning like there's very little effort with the body in terms of that. Now there's going to be some effort in the arms, right, to create the speed past impact. But I know when the player doesn't have that center point, they're moving back and forth, they struggle with the arm and hand motion. A big thing they're unable to do is rehinge correctly in the follow through.
That's right.
And I love when you coach, you say this 3 sides to a square, is it, or box?
Yeah, 3 sides to a square.
A square. And hey, when we go back, we create that. And so we got to recreate that on the way through. Can you kind of talk us through that point?
Well, since we have this relatively thin or narrow object in our hands right here, the first thing you need to be able to create wrist hinge is the proper connection between your hand and the club, right? So if a golfer gets the club too much in the palm of their hand, they can't really activate the wrist. If you can't activate your wrist, you can't create and release angles, so you got no speed. So just holding something that's like really narrow or thin makes it super easy to kind of feel the club cradling you on the fingers, which makes it easier to feel hinge, right?
Yeah.
So a golfer, if they didn't have an alignment stick, a lot of people do, a lot of people don't, you can just go ahead and put the club in your fingers just like that, right? As you're walking from, the fairway onto the green, you can start to feel a different connection between the club and your hand. Right?
I love that. Yeah.
So I think that's just like a little tiny upgrade that we'll throw in based on what we're talking about here. The second thing that we're trying to do, like you mentioned, is in the backswing, we're going to create some hinge between the shaft and our lead arm, but we're also noticing how when this trail elbow folds, we create this relationship, which is like 1, 2, 3 sides to a square, 3 sides to a box, right? So if I go into my backswing, right, I can't see those angles being created, I can't see the 3 sides to a square, I don't have enough potential energy to even work with, right? Well, the thing is that we're kind of getting the reciprocal of that on this side of the swing as well, but this time with the lead arm, right?
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to go from one square here to another square there. And the faster I can go from square to square, the more noise I hear of the stick, you know, whooshing through the air.
And do you see with a player, I'm going to give you your club back here for a second. If we were to demonstrate the bad version, right? Lots of body moving off the center back and forth, almost always,
Yeah.
that player also has the bad version you just showed, which they don't create that three sides. Now, those two often go together.
That's right. Yeah. So they're moving their head side to side. They're shifting their weight, again, back and forth along the target line without any turn. Obviously, there's weight shift in the golf swing a little bit. But of course, they're not creating and releasing these angles, right? So they're working really hard with their body to try and make the ball go somewhere.
Yes.
But it doesn't go anywhere, right? And you know, the big thing about golf is that, you know, nowadays we're always talking about speed, we're talking about power. A lot of the ideas that we share with people come from the tour level down, right? There's a lot of talk about, you know, how we're using the body and how we're using the ground or not, you know, but at square one, you know, your hands are the only thing connecting you to this golf club.
That's right.
So they're the primary mover of the shaft or the controller of the face, and they have a lot to say about how much speed we can produce in the swing. So the average golfer really needs to focus on that area first, create a stable hub, move in a circle around that hub, and then we can talk about how to use the body to maybe amplify that speed a little bit.
Beautiful. I'm going to hop in quick and do one or two with that, Jeff. So it's typically what we'll see is lots of effort, low speed. What we want is low effort, high speed.
That's right.
Without trying to try so hard. So if I step in to try this step one with the alignment rod, I really like that add-on. It is easier to grip this in the fingers for sure with something smaller. Foot's back a little bit to prevent me from going side to side. I'm going to make my back swing, make sure that I do create some angle, maybe just like 90 degrees-ish there.
Yeah, close to 90, that's good enough.
And then when I'm going through, I'm trying to feel the speed past the ball, keep my body back. And I would define body back, Jeff, maybe by like my head stays over the golf ball line.
It's staying with the ball a little bit. You know, like we're in Florida right now, you know, we got a little bit of cloud cover, but you know, if you're on the range, it's a sunny day, put the sun at your back, right? You're going to create a shadow in front of you, right? Put the ball in the shadow and just try and keep the ball in the shadow. That's going to give you some feedback that's really easy to see to let you know if you're reasonable or not.
And so I'm creating that box again on the way through, right? And I almost like, sometimes you would say that you would have some players kind of finish here.
Absolutely.
And then work from there, huh?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, you know, we talk about getting the arms extended through the ball.
Yeah.
We hit a lot of half shots. Sometimes we don't teach this rehinge component and people get a little bit confused about how to do it. So what I like to do in those situations is actually start at the finish where you've created that 1, 2, 3 sides to a square. And you'll notice how the end of your stick, which should be the grip of your club, it's pointing out towards the target. Okay. Not pointing back towards you. So you could do it one-handed, you could do it two-handed. You start from there, swing back, and then end in that same place you started.
Yeah, okay. And I'm still getting that whoosh like past the ball.
Absolutely.
So butt of the club at the target.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Let's try that with a club there. Yeah, Jeff. So even maybe as like an interim between the two, they would go, let me switch your clubs there. They would go feel that with an alignment rod. They could also maybe do the club upside down. Yeah. Right. If you don't have that, would be a similar way to do it. Now, if I was going to put that into a swing, I could hit with the same drill. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the foot's pretty close. My right foot feels pulled back a little and very close to the left, removes the back and forth. Like that's just such a key concept. Keeping the body in the same spot, the stable hub to create the speed with the arms. Very important. So I'm going back, creating that 3 sides, going through, creating that 3 sides, butt of the club at the target. So same sort of feels. I'll get the feet closer, create that angle, let that rehinge back into the follow through. Stable hub. And there's a really nice example.
Beautiful.
And you guys will feel this when you do this. I hit that very solid. It felt to me, I was trying to swing my arms and club. Yeah. But I felt like my body was doing so little that it felt very effortless.
That's right.
More speed with less effort is the whole point.
Yeah. We're trying to move fast.
Yeah.
We're trying to move quick. It's like the crack of a whip, the snap of a towel, right?
Yeah.
We're not moving the mass of our body all over the place.
Yes.
You know? And a lot of times people assume that, you know, if you're a strong individual, right, that you move the club quickly. I've got plenty of, you know, NFL players and Major League Baseball players they're so rocked up, you know, they can't move the club quickly with their hands and their arms. They're throwing their mass around. They're like, I'm a pro athlete. Why does it go half as far as you hit it? All right, because they haven't learned this basic technique.
So good. We could go much longer on that, but I think that core concept and that drill there,
Yeah.
like that felt really, really good there. And I think you're going to get the same thing when you try this. Something short, like a 9 or an 8 iron. Start with the alignment rod, flip the club upside down, hit some with that. Listen, guys, if you want to check out in-person golf schools, Jeff hosts some schools with performance golf out on the West Coast, but they're all over the country. We'll put a link down below. Multi-day golf schools. Can't recommend them enough. Appreciate you watching as always. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions.